Good morning, students. After the pre-midterm exam, I welcome you again for the online class of economics. Today, I will be going to explain you the second chapter of statistics, that is collection of data, student. This is the second part of the chapter which will help you to know after the statistics chapter you have learned the complete meaning of statistics. Now the process starts how you will be making the statistical data to be performed. The very first step of statistics to be performed is to make the collection of the data on the basis of which you will be able to make your judgment or the statistical measure to be applied and to get the solution of the economy. That can be possible only when you will be collecting data. Now the question is how you will collect the data, what will be the source of data, what are the methods of collecting the data, which will be best suited and which will we can have an optional. This all the information you will get from this chapter, that is collection of data. For statistical investigation, collection of data is a first and foremost, because for statistic investigation data are base. Investigation data, what is there? The data which we are collecting on the basis or the criteria of objective of selecting it. Means for what aim we are selecting the data, what is the aim of collecting, that is known as, that investigation will be known as statistical investigation. Statistics is said to be the science of collection, summarization, presentation, analysis and interpretation of data. After the collection of data, they are summarized and presented by graphs and diagrams, and after that they are analyzed by various statistical methods, and in the last interpreted. So that is known as collection of data, student. So very important thing is the base of our statistical result is the collection of data. Because of that, it is very important to know how to make collection of data, what can be the source of collection, what will be the criteria of collection. All this objective will be fulfilled by learning this chapter, that is collection of data. What is inquiry, student? On the what basis we are making the collection? Inquiry means nothing, a search for knowledge, a search for the objective for which we are making a survey. Statistical inquiry therefore implies search to knowledge with the help of statistical methods. And what are the methods? Collection, summarization, analysis, interpretation, etc. The technique of statistics cannot be applied to all kinds of phenomena. It is applicable to only those subjects which can be measured quantitatively. That is known as inquiry. Collection of data is the most important step. It is not an easy job. A careful study of the technique of collection of data and their presentation in proper form is absolutely necessary, as the data are the fundamentals of statistics. Certain preliminary steps must be taken into consideration before commencing the work of collection of data. What are the steps? Very first, the aim for which we are making a collection of data, means what is the problem. Second, object of inquiry, why we need to collect the data for such a type of investigation. That object must be cleared. Scope of inquiry, to what range we can make the inquiry to be done. Time of inquiry, definitely the duration of inquiry is needed, because a data which is collected beyond the time will not be useful. Degree or extent of accuracy must be there. Determination of statistical unit, sources of information, type of inquiry, collection of data, editing of data, analysis of data, interpretation, preparing the report. These are the four various steps which must be done. Before the start of any statistical investigation or inquiry, one must know as to what for the investigation is being carried out. Why we are doing such an investigation, why we are doing such a type of collection of data, that must be clear and known to the person. What are the related problems, what are the objectives which the investigation is going to serve. It is natural that one should know as to what to his efforts are being directed and what he is going to achieve. That all will be coming to know from the collection of data. Sources of primary and secondary data. On the above introduction, whatever we learn, now we can classify the data into two forms. One is primary and secondary data. Or you can say the sources of data. There are two, primary and secondary. When we talk primary data, student, it is that source of data implies collection of data from its source of origin. It offers first-hand quantitative information relating to the statistical study. The team of investigation contact the correspondent people offering basic information and obtain the desired quantitative information about any concerned issue. Secondary sources of data implies obtaining the relevant statistical information from an agency or an institution. In simple one, students, primary data are the source of data which you are collecting by yourself. You are knowing the objective of collection of data, and that's why you make the survey yourself. That is known as primary data. It means there is a direct contact link between the data collected and you. Secondary data, where it is that source of data which is collected from various other modes, means from other institution, from agency you got the information, that is known as secondary source of data, which is already in possession of that information, means someone is the owner of that particular information which you want to share. Okay, means you not collected the data, the first investigation already started by some other institution or agency. Thus the desired statistical information which is already in possession or which already exists and you simply collect it from the concerned agency or department is known as secondary data. Very easy to distinguish between primary data and secondary data. The real source of data which you had collected by your own self, it is known as primary data, and the data which you have collected from some agency, department or someone else who had collected and who is having the ownership, from them you are collected, is known as secondary data. Now comes in deep way the primary and secondary data. From collection point of view, data are of the following types. One is primary data and second is secondary data. When we go to the primary data, student, it refers to those data which are collected by the investigator itself. But means they themselves went gone around and collected the data for their study. This is known as primary data. These data are original in the sense that these are collected for the first time. For example, if it is desired to conduct an inquiry into the cost of living of the workers in a factory, and if the data pertaining to this inquiry collected by the investigator himself, means the objective of data is cost of living of the workers, we have to make the study of that particular data, and for that the investigator himself went to the workers and understand their problems, cons and pros related to their living standard. It is known as primary data, as it is directly connected between the investigator and the person from whom we want to know the data. It is known as primary data. Secondary data, when we talk, it is that data, those facts which have been already collected by someone else, and from that someone else we are taking the data for our study and survey. This is known as secondary data. It is usually in the shape of finished products. These data have already been collected by somebody else. These are available in the form of published form. In other words, the data which are used in an investigation but which have been gathered originally by someone else for some other purpose are known as secondary data. Difference between primary and secondary data, when we talk, student, primary data is collected originally in this first hand information for a particular statistical inquiry, while secondary data is collected through other sources and is second hand information for other inquiry. The points of difference between primary and secondary data are given in the following table. When we talk about primary data, student, it is the original source because the investigator himself went and made a survey. Then secondary data, when we talk, it is not an original source because we are hiring the data from someone else. Next is the information obtained through primary data is more accurate. Why it is accurate? Because we ourselves had made a survey and we never will try to make a false in our study. Because of that, the data is having accuracy. Secondary data, this accuracy will be less, not perfect, not so accurate as we have collected, because someone else had made the data to be collected. That might be some errors also, they might be knowing more about the data as compared to us, and for us it can be incorrect or imperfect. In the collection of primary data, there is possibility of personal prejudice, means we can make a self judgment related to data which we have collected. But in secondary data, such possibility may be already have data have already been collected. Okay, there is no such possibility that we can make a personal prejudice or judgment related to the data which we have collected because someone else had collected. There will be having some else information related to that we cannot imagine that can be happened. Primary data, when we caught in the collection of such data, more labor and capital is required because they are collected for the first time. Whereas secondary data, when we talk, there is less there is no more capital because we are taking some from someone else. There is no more capital and labor is required. But here in the primary data, more resources there, more effort is there, more labor is there, because we directly making an investigation by ourselves. Now comes methods of collecting primary data. If the primary data and secondary data meaning is clear, now we can go through the methods of collecting primary data. When we talk about methods of collecting primary data, student, the different methods of collecting primary data are as follows. The very first is direct personal investigation. Second is indirect oral investigation. Third is by local correspondence. Fourth is questionnaires to be filled by by informants, and the fifth is schedule to be filled in by enumerators. When we talk about these 5 methods, the best is the questionnaire to be filled by informant, because that time the people will be filling the question which we will be following, and that will help us to make a judgment related to the data which we are collecting. But let's just see direct personal investigation and other method. Direct personal investigation has a name is student, direct personally investigation made by the investigator. So that is known as direct personal investigation. In this method of collecting primary data, the investigator himself or herself collect the information related to the particular topic or the objective from the sources concerned. He presents himself on the spot and conduct the inquiry himself. He meets people from whom he chooses to collect the data. In such cases, the investigator should have an insight in this problem. Insight means he must foresight firstly what the things he will be able to do. He should have a keen observation sense. It is necessary that he is very polite and courteous related to the data. Suitability, where it is suitable. This method of collecting primary data is suitable particularly in the following cases. Very first, where his field of investigation is limited or not very large, where a greater degree of originality of the data is required, there it can be suitable. Okay, first I think point is clear. Field of investigation is limited means why it is saying, because if the field of investigation is big, can a single person can complete that investigation in a given period of time? The answer will be no. Because of that, if the source of data is limited, if the collection of data is limited, then we can have the direct personal investigation. And degree of originality, definitely. Where accuracy, we need 99% accuracy need, where the direct personal investigation is very important. Where information is to be kept secret, that needs direct personal investigation. Where accuracy of data is of great importance or significance, there the need is there to have the direct personal investigation. Where direct contact with the informant is required, means we want the correct and exact answer from the informant. That time we require direct personal investigation. So these are the suitable places where we can have the direct personal investigation method to be suited. Advantages, as we from the features only it is clear the advantages. When we will get accuracy will be more in this method. This method ensures high degree of accuracy. When we say collected data are uniform, yes, definitely, like because they are collected by one person. So whenever the person had collected the particular height of the particular persons, definitely inches, a common data he or she had taken, the inches they had taken, or centimeters, commonly uniform nature is there. If different people will be collecting, then someone can have the centimeters, some had taken the height in the inches, that difficulty can be there. But when it is collected from one person, that uniformity will be there. Original data are collected by this method only. When is direct contact with the informant, the investigator may obtain other relevant information as well. Comparative study is possible. Yes, the same type of study can be possible through this method. This method of collecting data is flexible because the investigator can bring certain changes in the question to be asked to the people. Demerits and limitations, when we talk, student, merits of methods of collecting data suffer from the following demerits. Very first demerit is that this method requires a long time and involves enormous cost. This method consumes more time. In this method, there is more use of power. This method is not suitable for extensive inquiries where the scope of investigation is wide. This method is highly prone to personal bias of the investigator. As a result, the data may lose their credibility. In short, if I want to explain this demerit, the demerit of this method is that one person only collecting all the information, one person only making the judgment, one person only making the foresight related to the data. When one person is given overburdened with so many things, time will be delayed, power will be delayed, management related to data will be difficult, then accuracy can be questioned, because one person, when they are doing the whole study related to collection, it will be difficult for the person. From that point of view, we can see there are the demerits of direct person investigation. Now come indirect oral investigation. As the name is oral investigation, if we are making some pros and cons related to verbal asking from the informants, it is known as indirect oral investigation. When direct person investigation method of collecting primary data cannot be used, means the first method, then the indirect oral investigation can be conducted to get necessary information. The investigator approaches certain sources which are connected with the information directly or indirectly. Okay. So the investigator, what they do, they can have the certain sources of data, and from that they can make a direct and indirect investigation related to particular question. Usually a list of questions relating to the inquiry is prepared, and these questions are put to different persons and their answers are recorded. Mainly in the advertisement, if you have seen in the TV advertisement related to particular topic, they are asked to many audience, they are asked to the political people, they are asked to the local society people, they are asked in so many different ways. That type of investigation and making judgment, collecting of data and making the judgment, it is known as oral investigation. The success of indirect oral investigation method depends upon the ability of investigator, how best they can do the investigation to be possible. That method can be used. The suitability of this method is on the following ways. Where the idea of inquiry is wide, we can have the oral investigation. We can select some group of people and we can ask the question and we can make our investigation to be successful. Where direct sources do not exist or can be relied upon to give information, it is not possible to have direct contact with the concerned informants. Where the direct person investigation is not suitable, investigation is so complex in nature that only experts can give informations. That time we can have this suitability. But if we want to be accurate, we must have direct person investigation only. Next is merits. The merits and demerits are as follows. This method provides information quickly. As it is oral investigation, we are having some question, we will pass the question to the front person, they will give the judgment, they will write the answer and give to us, they will give oral answers to that. This method is not costly, that is economical in nature, it is less time consuming. As per this method, information is regularly supplied. This method can be applied even when the field of investigation is very wide. Now comes demerits, limitations. This method of collecting primary data suffers from the following demerits. The very first is relatively less accurate. Definitely. Because here we are not contact directly to the informant. Here the source of data which we had collected, it is indirect, and here we have taken from any person whom we are taking suitable for the judgment. There is a lack of uniformity. Definitely the different answers will be there from the different peoples, because here we are not have the uniform source that we will be collecting from data from so and so source. So lack of uniformity or data, because data are sent by various correspondents by using different methods. Data are likely to be biased, more confusing, because after collection of data, the accuracy we will be losing, because it is from different correspondent, what question they had sent, what the feedback they got, and what the source of data they provided to us, it all will be questioned. So that is the very demerit. Because of that, this indirect oral investigation is not used most of the time. Comparison between direct personal investigation and indirect oral investigation, if you want to know more so that you will be having more information related to this method, is that there are following distinguishing features between the direct personal investigation and indirect oral investigation. When we talk about direct investigation, student, in case of former investigation, means the direct investigation, the investigator establishes direct contact with the informant, means from whom we want to collect the data. We are going ourselves and we are collecting the data. Accuracy is more. Whereas in case of later investigation, means the indirect oral investigation, information is obtained by contacting other than those about whom information is sought. Means we are not contacting to the person from which we want to get the information. We are taking the information from someone else. The former that means direct personal investigation is generally possible when the field of investigation is small. Whereas that second method, that is indirect oral investigation, is suitable where the source of information is big, where the data is needed from a large area. In direct personal investigation, the investigator must be well versed in the language and cultural habits of the informant. That is needed. Like village area, we want to get the information, we must be good in that language, because we can understand the people answer also, we can also communicate in their language. There is no such requirement in the case of oral investigation, in indirect oral investigation, because here the correspondent will be what they will make us understand, we have to understand. So here the importance is not there of the language. Where accuracy point of view, the direct is having more accuracy as compared to indirect oral investigation. Information through local correspondent. This method of collecting data, students, what happens, there are our peoples spread in different areas, there are our local correspondents, and from them we are taking the information. That is known as information through local correspondent. Under this method of collecting primary data, the investigator appoints local agents or correspondents in different parts of the area under investigation. These agents or correspondents are asked to collect information and transmit it to the investigator. This method is adopted by government, semi-government and private institutions to collect the information. Suitability of this method is where the field of inquiry is wide. Yes, it can be. Their agents are there, they will be spreading themselves to many areas and they can get the information. So this method is open for wide area investigation, where rough and approximate estimates are required. It's not 100% accuracy is there. There we can apply this method, where the information is to obtain at regular intervals from every month, every week we want the information. There we can have this method suitability. Now advantages. As there are so many people helping us to collect the data, it saves the time, it saves the cost, it does not involve more efforts. The area of inquiry can be wide, that is a very good point. So these are the various merits. Demerits, definitely accuracy is the very first demerit. It is not very much correct. Data collected by this method are not reliable. This method is not adapted where a high degree of accuracy is required. Collected data lack uniformity because different agents are there, different sources are there from which we will be getting the data. Though there are our own sources of people, there are the agents of our own people, they are connecting directly to the informant in place of us. But there are the accuracy, uniformity will be questioned here, because different minds of people we are using it. Okay, here it is primary data, not the secondary data. I want to again, because the agents are representative of the organization. Here we are not collecting the data from other organizations. Here our own people are collecting the data for our, like newspaper channels people. Okay, there are the primary data source, because there are different reporters who will be going to different areas collecting the information related to same objective. Okay, and then it will be come to the news channel. So that will be having the you can say that is information through local correspondent. There you can observe also they are saying that only, but uniformity is lacking. They themselves say uniformity is not there of the data, because they have collected from different peoples. Information through mailed questionnaire, very clear this method. When we are collecting the source of information through a mail, Under this method, investigator prepares a questionnaire list of questions keeping in view the objectives of the inquiry. It is also assured to keep the information secret. The informant notes the answer word against the question and returns the completed questionnaire to the investigator. Suitable of this method, where the informants are educated, definitely then only they can answer to our questions. The information is regularly supplied, where the field of inquiry is wide. Merits, saves the time, because people are opening the mail and they are just checking out the questions and giving the answer. It saves our time. This method is less expensive. Less efforts are involved in this method. Result can be obtained quickly. The method is more suitable where field of inquiry is wide. Demerits, when we talk student, there are certain demerits of this method which can be are as follows. The data received by the methods are not reliable, dependent on other people's. The conclusion based on investigation have only limited accuracy, very less % of accuracy you can say, because anyone can write any answer. The accuracy is very less. People have read the question properly, fully completed. That is very less in this particular type of way of collecting data. In this method, there is lack of quality of originality, because anyone can answer for the question which is sent to their mail. That can be there. So that chances are very less. Next method student I will be explaining in the next classes, that is questionnaire through enumerators, questionnaire method, because here designing of the questionnaire also I have to explain. For today's class this much only. Have a nice day. Thank you.